That's good.
You want to try?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, yeah. And again, it's so cool. Yeah, and it's built. Is this available? And that's a cool thing, you can't do this. No, that's all. How funny is that? This is 30 years old. It's like it feels the model is working with the inside.
So the main piece is an NFT, no?
Yeah, so that's the machine. So the other cost of this is $125,000. Wow. The original one in 1920. Yeah, the original one was $200,000.
Wow. So the equivalent would be like $1 million.
Oh yeah. Well, basically, NBC bought 12 of these like this because it made everyone's life easier, better, faster. All your artists would do better work.
Is that what they needed at that time?
Yeah. So this is all
Made with this.
yes. Let me take you to what we do now.
This is from back then?
Yeah. So you can see that basically, what's it to do with the machine? You don't look at this and say, this is Paintboxed art, and this is art done on paper. So even the user guide says, okay, this is not a machine that makes you a good artist. It's not about artists, it's not about artists. But this will help you do whatever you need to do. But there's no beginning, there's no trick, it doesn't make you into a good artist. There's no linears, there's no press a button, fix this.
You need to know how to make art in general.
Yeah.
Then apply.
So like it means that this, I think this piece in 1985, so I want to convey the idea that like the traditional was film and now we're going into digital, this kind of vortex into the digital world. So I couldn't do that in a laboratory where there's dark. And so that was my way of expressing what I thought was going to happen. There wasn't even any word, there was no word Photoshop.
Well, what do you call it? Like in digital art?
I called it new photography.
Okay, yeah.
New photography. There was somebody on here in 1986, and they were on in 1986, and they said, what's amazing is there's probably going to be a whole generation of schizophrenics that don't know where digital starts and reality ends because of this. And she was totally true.
Yeah. I mean, we are dealing with that too with AI.
Just as AI.
Too? Really?
Yeah. You don't believe me?
I mean, I think the 3D.
No, look. Between the P and the N.
Good one.
Look, it's AI. It's got everything. So what's cool for me is like I'm not trying to like, I know it might seem like a Tom Cruise and all excited, but I'm not trying to say, hey, this is crazy religion or something you don't know. But if you see these videos on the TV, you're going to watch these videos and go, hey, now I know why that was good.
Yes, exactly.
Before you just don't even realize or think.
Yeah, it feels like it's a green screen or something.
And because Adobe takes over and of course, Photoshop, they give the impression that Photoshop is the first.
Yeah.
This is 10 years before Photoshop.
I mean,
So the funny thing is, so this is an article from 1991 about photography. And the article is, the photo's always live. So that's like, 1840, whatever. So they talk about the history of manipulation.
yes.
And then they go on to digital manipulation, how you can move the moon around and move Madonna. But how about this? They have a homeless person and Trump. And they combine. They predict in the future.
Yeah, it's like.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. They didn't.
That's before Photoshop.
Yeah.
The Paintbox came out in 1981 from a British company called Quantel, and it was basically a graphic computer 10 years before Photoshop came out. And I have an old image of the machine here. So we have the mainframe and the pen and tablet interface and the screen. There is a keyboard, but you don't really need it, so you can handle the whole system just with a pen, a pressure, and the tablet, and you can create beautiful graphics with it, or making collages, and it was used for TV stations, for bumpers, for commercial, and for art.
Do you know the development of this box? I mean, nowadays you have software, even on your iPhone, you can do amazing, incredible things, but this is also quite a lot of hardware. And how was this developed? Who and why was it developed?
That is a good question. Maybe I'm not the right person to answer that. I know that Quantel developed the first digital frame store, and with that knowledge to save one image of video without any picture quality loss. That was a huge success in the mid-70s, and on that technology they invented on top this painting device where you can manipulate the stored image and use all the kinds of tools an artist would use to create images or graphics or designs. Maybe in this case, let's show you from the beginning. So everything is controlled with a pen and a tablet, and with a few gestures I can swipe to the left and to the right, and I get the menu out of the screen. I can swipe down, and I'm reaching my palette, and here it's very handy. Yeah.
And this is also pressure sensitive?
Yes, so that is very handy if I want to make my own colors. Here I have my basic primary colors. For example, if I want to make me a variety of oranges, I just mix my own colors here and create the colors I like. And if I have if I'm really happy with the color, I can also put it in a paint pot here and save that for later use. I can also pick colors from the image itself and mix them with other colors. So maybe let's create a sphere, for example. Yeah. So
another question, these boxes here.
Yeah.
So you have like a menu.
That is my main menu. Yeah, this is my main menu. It's working from left to right. So here's my painting menu. In painting, I have a few different styles of brushes. In this case, it's more a chalk, or I have an airbrush. And the airbrush behaves like an airbrush. If you hold it and press, you release more paint. And let's do something. And in the graphic menu, I have also the tools to create graphic shapes that I can control with my pen. And if I'm happy with it, I can stick it down to the screen or make it smaller. Let's create a little sphere. In this case, I need a stencil. I can use my stencil, and we can fill it with an airbrush. I can add some highlights.
is this saved continuously, or do you have to manually save it?
I have to manually save it. There is no undo option, so I need to be very careful what I'm doing, and I have some buffers, 2 image buffers here, where I can put 2 images in here. So you see that is a picture from Keith Haring. He was using the Paintbox end of the 80s for he got the chance to work on the Paintbox end of the 80s in Paris. So, oh now I make a mistake. You need to cut that. I paint again my sphere.
That's really funny what nowadays you can do with your devices. And,
Yeah.
This was much harder to create something that's really special.
These days,
Yeah, these days it's easier. Nowadays, back then you had to really be careful about what you were doing. You would have
yeah, because you need to make up your mind, yeah.
Are you hanging out mostly here?
And I can now with my stencil I can produce cutouts with it and place it somewhere I like it. I can change the size of my cutout. I can copy it and move it somewhere else. With my stencil in use, I can put some things behind objects, or
You said you can do everything also with a keyboard and the.
no, I can everything without the keyboard. The keyboard is not necessary. So if I want to change a value, I have a soft keyboard always on my screen where I can enter things with a tablet. If I want to save something, I can also use my keyboard here. So there's never really a need of a keyboard. Sometimes it depends on the artist to work with it. But here we didn't even bring it with us. So yeah.
I can imagine it was quite expensive back in the days. Do you know how much it was?
Yeah, back in the 80s, one system cost around £250,000 because it was very sophisticated hardware. It was not a very powerful processor, but to achieve all the image manipulation or drawing capabilities, you need a very special hardware next to the main processor. There's an open system where we can have a look inside. I don't know so much about everything because I'm more on the other side of the system on the screen, but we have one board is just the processor and all the other boards are just here to scale an image, for example, or to save something in a buffer. And it's basically a big GPU.
It's really incredible. You know,
Yeah.
If you think about what the smartphone can do now.
Yeah.
So
So
these big boxes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is already small compared to the mainframes. And so
yeah, that is the system we have here is from 1990. It's called the V series, but in the beginning we had this much more bigger crates with an external big and loud hard disk. But this is already a bit more advanced than when it came out beginning of the 80s.
what would you say are the main challenges in working with the system? I mean, every system has its limitations
Yeah.
if you want to create something.
Yeah.
What would you say were the advantages and disadvantages, or what were the challenges of the system?
The advantage on this system here is at the same time the disadvantage, because it's made for TV resolution. So that means if I swipe my menu out of the way, I'm already ready for broadcast out of the machine. So because it's direct video standard that you can plug into your control room and broadcast it right away. On the other hand, it's limited to the TV resolution. Therefore, they invented another system mid-80s. It's called a graphic paintbox, where you have a much more powerful system and a much higher resolution than the TV resolution. And with those machines, they created all the film and movie posters you can see here in the exhibition that Adrian collected. Wir können ja mal darüber gehen.
A lot of stuff people know, but they don't know that it was created on Paintbox.
Yeah. So this company called Electric Paint created a lot of movie posters for big Hollywood movies, and they got several graphic paint boxes, and they used it for creating all these stunning posters and for Hollywood blockbusters. Yeah. And also we have here a little collection of album covers, right? And I'm sure you know most of them.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that leads also already to the question. I mean, how you got involved into this paintball sphere?
So I saw a making of on the German children's program how they make news, and I saw in that program the graphic department of a TV production facility. And in that, you can saw a graphic artist working on the paintbox. And as a kid, I was immediately interested in this machine because she was painting freehand, and you immediately see what you get on the TV screen. And later, I found out that it's called Paintbox, and I called the company, and they invited me as a kid when I was 17 to have a training on the paintbox. And after that, I hold a certificate. Matthias Paeper is Paintbox trained artist, and with that certificate, I went to a TV station and I just got my first job. So that was really amazing, and that brought me into the industry.
That's really amazing.
Yeah. So basically, I won my career in a, was heißt ein Preisausschreiben?
In sweepstake? Access or competition?
Yeah, maybe I won it in a competition. Yeah.
Incredible.
Now Adrian is back here. Maybe he can also say something. Maybe we can give him a...
Hey, sorry for walking in on your interview. I saw you here. You were here yesterday or the day before?
On Monday, I think.
I think Tuesday.
I don't know. Yeah.
I already forgot about yesterday.
So you just explained about the Paintbox. So what year did you first use the Paintbox?
So 1997 was my first Paintbox experience. Yeah.
So that was 16 years after it was launched.
Yeah. So, but I know the system much earlier, but I didn't get the chance to get hands on one machine. Yeah.
So not to pull any rank here, but obviously I used the Paintbox in 1984.
But how come we are the same age?
I know. The radiation from this machine aged me like Dorian Gray.
Cool, because
it's like Photoshop. It doesn't have this radiation, but when you use Paintbox, the way that it made people younger, it extracted your youth into the machine. Yeah. So that's why I look older.
You used a too old CRT screen that aged you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's kind of weird because we a lot of the questions you get, you go, hey, well, the Paintbox, why isn't it still around, or why isn't Quantel around?
Yeah.
So by the time you use the Paintbox, it had already been around for 16 years.
Yes, and it survived for 15 years after that.
Right. So Nokia doesn't even make phones anymore. 16 years or whatever after the famous Nokia phones or Motorola. So you know, it's kind of weird that people go, oh, well, it's not good because it didn't last long. Well, what tech lasts 16 years?
Yeah, that's true. 30 years. Yeah.
30 years,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great because we're kind of generational in the story.
Yeah.
I was, you know, what they would call the OG or whatever, hence my hair and hairline, and you're the young G.
Yeah, maybe. I'm one of the youngest Paintbox artists around then, because when I reached to the industry, Photoshop was already very famous. Photoshop and After Effects, but I got the chance to get some Paintbox work done before the transition started to completely everything went to different software.
So what's interesting is, and I try to explain this to people, everyone knows 60s, 50s, 70s art, plotter drawings, generative art, all this kind of stuff. But why doesn't anyone know what happened in the 80s?
It's a good question. Maybe
we know about the Amiga, maybe, and Keith Haring on the Amiga, but
I think the question for those people, the answer of that question for the most people is, they did it with a computer. So that doesn't know what kind of computer it was.
So I was just at a talk, and he was saying, okay, so you have a thing. The Paintbox was interesting because it was technically it had no hard drive at all. There was a machine and it had an output, or it was connected to something. So the hard drive was a peripheral external device.
And loud.
So people would say, when they're on this, they say, well, how do you get an image onto the Paintbox? Well, it was for video, so it'd either be from a tape recording, from a live broadcast, or from a video from a studio, or from a rostrum camera where you wanted artwork. So you would import the work into the Paintbox, and it had a library of like 300 images,
something about,
but you couldn't really store moving images in there like video, so it was output to video. So one of the questions was, okay, well, you've got a slide output or a video output, like, because obviously if you wanted these images on a poster or a magazine or whatever, they can't print off a video, so you had to get this slide output, which was another machine that converted it into a slide.
You used it heavily back in the day.
So it's really interesting because in the tech world, especially digital art, people say, we need the original file with the zeros and ones.
So
if you go in, I don't know, if you go in the Louvre, you don't say, I need to see Leonardo's paintbrushes and which paint tube he used and know how many brushes per square inch, because that makes it a genuine painting.
But maybe it's the question of what is the original is not working in the digital world, so that's why it's so hard to answer.
Right, because a reproduction, you know, at the end of the day, everything that you see, there was a discussion in the 80s where they said, right, okay, like with NFTs, we spent 8 hours on this pad, but there's nothing there to show. It's inside the computer. So, okay, well, the computer lets us take something home, but it's the computer that owns everything, right?
Yes, we had this discussion in the group. So the technical guy says, "Oh, the original image is in the main store," and maybe I would say it's on the screen, on the phosphor dots on the screen.
But that is a reproduction.
It's
of
a reproduction of the. That's true.
So in digital art, all you ever see is what the computer lets you take home, right? Or see. And so they were saying, oh, you know, like, is this? So I did this in 1984, 85, and they say, well, is this an original? And I'm like, yeah, because any artist, the key thing of any artist, he goes, it's finished. This is the way I want people to see it. Now, it's not just the painting the way it's finished, it's what size the painting is, where it's shown, what the frame is around it, etc. That you go, I want to see it, people to see it in this form.
But so, this is done on a video Paintbox, right?
That's on a video Paintbox.
But so even it's done on a video Paintbox, it's still you create this quality by putting it on a negative
on a film recorder.
On a film recorder, yeah.
So the funny thing is, right? So there's also with the blockchain and all this, people say, hey, well, this authenticates. this thing. So this was done in 1985. You couldn't do this on any other computer that existed at that time.
Yeah.
So you'd say, well, how do we know it was 1985? And you go, well, I'll show you the film, and that kind of film is from 1985. And you go, well, I could buy some of that film now and maybe redo it. And you go, well, see these lines? This is from a video. This is 625 lines of video. So then they go, yeah, but you could probably do that on Photoshop, which you couldn't.
Yeah.
But then you go, well, you see how the lines run vertically?
Because it's an upside.
Because the resolution, I wanted the biggest resolution, and a TV screen is horizontal. So if I had the 3x4 screen and worked vertically, there'd be all this lost information. So I work sideways. So all my images have the lines going vertical because I had to do that to get the best quality because of that technology.
And did you rotate the screen, the CRT screen?
No, because then you got the menu.
Yeah.
So basically, you were working with this technology and working out the best way of doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you look at this, you go, I don't need the blockchain or any certificate of authenticity to say this.
Yeah.
This has got digital fingerprints from film, the computer, the output, the lines, everything. It's like seeing a Leonardo painting and you go, well, there's a watermark from the paper company that, only existed at that time.
You have different watermarks in here. The film recorder, the resolution artifacts from the machine itself.
Yeah. So this is what the art is, right? And you embrace it. So actually, people at the time and now say, wouldn't you love a graphic paintbox, which is photo quality? And I said, no, because I love this feel.
Yeah.
Like, it's like saying to somebody who does oil painting, well, it's kind of like that texture. Wouldn't you like to have work with gouache because it's not bumpy? And you go, no, I love the bumpiness. So I kind of love the bumpiness of this. This is, to me, it tells the story and it places it within that moment. So, and I don't want to live in the past. It's not about that. But this is like, if you're going to work with a paint box, it's like, this is working. I don't know what would be the analogy, but it's like, it's buying it's like buying an old classic car like an E-Type Jag and saying, yeah, but I'm going to put an electric engine in it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not an E-Type Jag, right? So, you enjoy the fact it breaks down and smells and all those. It's part of the story.
Can you show something on your machine that you did or that people did on the exhibition so far?
Yeah. So
would we like to?
So obviously this is the second series. So this is the other irony. The OG person. So this is we have like this switching grasshopper and the master thing.
Yeah.
So I'm a grasshopper to you being the master of knowing the tech and the moving around, and because he loves doing video of the motion graphics.
I can use it very well, I think.
Yeah, he can use it very well. But I just used it for still images. So I know, a bit like Photoshop, you just use the parts of it that you want. But also I've got 8 of these, but Matt's got the original Paintbox that I worked on.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because it should be the other way around.
Yeah. We try to repair it still, but I hope that we can make it working at some point. Yeah.
But I also, if I only had the original one, you couldn't bring it here, for instance, and people play on it because it's too fragile and old, etc.
Too heavy.
Too heavy. But
synthesizer.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So what's cool is that we have this interchange between our talents, where I'm expert at something and you're an expert on something. I've got this tech. I've got your generation of tech, and you've got my generation of Paintbox.
Maybe at one point we swap. Let's see.
Let's see. Yeah. But if you show any images from this, the nice thing is if I go library.
I'm still in save.
Oh.
Yeah.
If I go. Oh, so did you talk about the menu and the?
Of the menu, the pen and the interface, and yeah. But maybe can you show something from Hockney?
So if you look at this menu here, everything that you read here, paint, chalk, airbrush, draw stencil, effects, you know, I love, this is my favorite thing, where it'll say, try it or do it. Because if you were in a photo studio in a graphics lab or painter, you'd say, hey Matt, what do you think of this? And you go, try it. And then you go, oh yeah, looks kind of cool, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
You know, so Quantel always said it took 3 years and 1 day to learn the Paintbox. And that's 3 years at art college and 1 day at Quantel.
This is nice. And
it actually was half a day because you would spend the morning and then you go to the pub for the rest of the day. So everything in here is what you would recognize. So when you draw the stencil, it's red because that's what, in a photo lab, to mask an area, you'd have this ruby lith. So everything was familiar to you. Now, people say, and famously, the Paintbox had no undo. And I asked the guy who invented this, why is there no undo? And he said, well, okay, well, technologically it was very difficult we were pushing technology to the limit. But also he said, why would we have undo? If you went in a photo studio or anything, there was no undo. Or if you were a sculptor or a watercolorist, there was no undo. So undo is a modern concept that you can just change anything. And so on this, when I was working on this, I always tell people, because people say, oh, you know, I was doing this in my, you know, for my pleasure, but people would say, oh, do you get paid did you make money as a digital artist? Nobody wanted to buy this. There was no market or interest for this, but I got paid $500 an hour to work on TV commercials or doing record covers. That record cover, that took me 20 minutes. So, you know, they said, okay, it's going to be called Gold Mother. I found a Leonardo engraving, just reflected it in some tin foil, did some gold on it. So, for instance, I'll give you a good example of why I was paid. So, David Hockney's first digital art was done on the Paintbox. So, 1985, literally 5 days ago, it was the 40th anniversary. So, for instance, this image. So
how did he know about this?
He was invited onto it. So there was a producer who came up with this concept.
That's an image. Maybe you can show that.
So there's David Hockney on the Paintbox. See all his cigarettes. It's funny because there's literally a photograph of the reception at Quantel, and there's a sign saying no smoking.
Yeah.
But it's David Hockney, so
what to do?
He gets to smoke.
Yeah.
And you see his progress from how many piles of cigarette butts are in that thing. So see that image there? Well, that is this image that he's drawing, which is, you know, there's a dog, there's these women, you know, there's a tortoise there or a turtle, and, you know, a woman changes to a cat or whatever. But, so if you say to me, right, it's 1984, and you say, right, okay, here's this image, and for whatever reason, this part of the image is cut off. Could you replace that? Now, what you would have to do is print that out. You'd have to get a physical airbrush, try and match this blue, then try and match these colors, hand paint them in. You imagine how long that would take. So let me show you how long it takes for me. So pick that color there. Make it a smaller brush. Put that color in there. Go to painting. So yeah, you know, we know David Hockney produced this on there. It looks like that kind of brush. Let's pick the color off the screen. There you go. Goes there, goes there. Maybe that squiggle goes around like that. This down here. Oh, it's missing the purple. Let's grab the purple. Sorry, David.
So that shows that he used the original primary colors from the
So what was that? I don't know. You can look at the video. It's less than a minute, right? So that's why I got paid $500 an hour, because you could do things that were conventional but faster. So this was the whole point of the Paintbox.
And better quality.
And it's better quality. So the whole point of the Paintbox was that it enabled you to do whatever you could do in 1981, but you could do it better, and you could animate that and do all this kind of things. But it'd also enable you to cut that out, do it 3D, things that you could never even dream of. So that's why it was $250,000. It completely, NBC bought 12 of these because they said our designers do better design and graphics, which means that the viewers see better graphics and they go, hey, we want to watch NBC because their Olympics coverage, medal tables, and looks more modern. So then you get more viewers, and then you get to spend, because you got more viewers, the advertisers go, oh yeah, we'll pay more money for the adverts. So then the NBC makes more money. So
another question, how do you animate this?
So these main menus, so you got painting, graphics, you know, again, I don't know if your readers realize, you know, there's paste up. So you can cut text. So we could type in, hang on. Is it one or two S's?
Two.
Two. Yeah, it's a difficult name for,
Yeah.
you know, so bad name for English
Yeah.
languages or countries.
So let me make this bright green, shall we? That's easy. So there you go, there's Vernissage. So bear in mind that this has got a video output. So in the director's box now, they're watching all this happens, and this is live, so it can go straight to tape, everything you're doing. So this is animation because you're playing around. So the other thing is Quantel were the first company of all companies to go to all the type foundries and say, hey, we're destroying your business, but we can sell this typeface to our customers for $500 and we'll split the money. And so all these are 1,000, you can get 1,000 fonts, all official fonts on this. So this size, I love certain things. So if I want to change this size to 50, this is how you would do it on Photoshop or Illustrator, right? Well, that's kind of slow. So what you can do here is you just pick that and you just move your cursor left or right, or up or down.
And control it with a gesture, and that is what I like
And
so
you
much.
do it with a gesture,
Yeah.
or the kerning. You go, oh, let's make that there. Hey, you know, let's. Hey, look, do. This. So yeah, there's your logo. Hey, you'll make it a bit bigger or whatever. And so if I now cut that out, we've now got this. Oh, sorry, we've got two
cutouts there. Opacity's down.
So if I delete that now, there's your opacity. So again, if you want to, so let me show you your animation. So if I do a sequence, and you don't have to animate this internally, but I'm going to record that and then go this animation like that. So there's your TV titles, your new vernissage opening of your TV titles. And then you
In
go,
4x3.
and then you go, oh, well, actually it's kind of cool, but you know, how about we emboss the lettering? How about we do a drop shadow? Let's make that drop shadow bigger. How about we go to an outline instead? Flip it, tumble it, do whatever. And then maybe actually it would be kind of cool if that was a brush. So everything is a custom brush cutout. So yeah, if you want to see generative art, so look, here's generative art, I just don't look. So
Basically, I mean, this was a popular.
in the perfect 1980s thing, and wait, there's more.
Yeah, there's more. Yeah.
But wait,
One more
there's
thing.
more. So look, there's your vernissage. Let's make it spin around. Let's make it 3D. Oh, yay! Welcome, yeah. So yeah, all of this stuff you could do in one machine. Not Illustrator, Photoshop, After Effects, all that stuff, all in one machine that is all linked to everything else. If you notice, there's no clicking at the box on the top. This is still faster than Photoshop. faster.
And even that is still not possible in Photoshop in this...
Yeah, you can't do that in Photoshop.
You don't have a 3D room in Photoshop.
So yeah, basically, it was just, this is a rocket ship. So to get on this, it's funny because people said, oh, was this like the Rolls Royce of digital art studio? And I said, no, it was a Bentley that's faster than a Rolls Royce. Rolls Royces are not fast. It was the best and the fastest.
Yeah.
So yeah, and obviously, you know, the history, obviously, at the end. Now the funny thing is, I always explain to people, because this was for television, television, like the movies, is like a magic thing. We all know that, you know, if you watch Avatar, it's all kind of fake, but you get into the magic of the movie or the magic of the TV show. So if you were like in the old days, you would see a microphone come from the boom mic and you'd see, I saw it. And you'd be like, oh, that's ruining the magic, right? You didn't want to see the tech, the camera, the mic or anything. So sometimes you get a video of the director's box where he's going, oh, camera 3, whatever. But generally, this was all behind the scenes. So this was part of the magic. They didn't want you to see. It wasn't a secret, but that was kind of like, if you saw this, like now, your viewers, if you watch Miami Vice, the titles, how did they do that? Now you know it's done on this. All these movie posters, album covers, you know that it was done on this. But in those days, that was like having a program about how the magician did his trick. You didn't want to show it because it was like, it ruined the effect that you knew why. It took something away.
But sometimes I show it on children's programs, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and those would be like an educational thing.
Yeah.
So that's why so there's two reasons why people don't know about it. Firstly, it didn't matter if you were, I don't know, what, Bill Gates or who would be the richest people back then. But basically, no matter how rich you were, like we're showing this now, and obviously if Elon Musk came in and said, hey, I want 20 of these, like how many kids has he got? He's got like 11 kids or something.
2 for each.
Yeah, he's got X number of kids, 10.
Yeah.
So basically, he says, I want a paint box for each of my children. There isn't one. You can't have it. So even back then, you know, if you're a billionaire or a millionaire, like if you were Richard Branson, you wouldn't buy one of these for your kids. So nobody had one of these at home, just for their own thing. So there's that, plus the magic, but then obviously when Photoshop came along, everyone just had one of that. They had the software in the box. They made it, the password, easy to crack. They said to people, hey, do you want to do plugins? So everyone was helping them develop that community, which, you know, Quantel were like, great, there's always going to be the people that want the Rolls Royce. You know, go into Quantel and saying, do you want to make Photoshop or do it in a CD in a box? You know, firstly, it was a properly run company. So the guy, you know, Peter Owen or Paul Keller would say, well, all the people in the factory here, we're successful because of those people. So what do? We fire all those people to make more money. We don't want to do that. So it was a nice company, that's why everyone loves them still.
Yeah.
But also, it still didn't run as fast. And at the end of the day, they didn't want to sell CDs in a box because it just didn't seem, you know, they weren't interested. So they always thought that there'd always be people who would want to buy you don't go to Rolls Royce and say, you could make lots of minis, you know, and this was the Rolls Royce. So they weren't interested in retail or mass market. And in fact, Paul Keller said the only company, and bear in mind, they patented the pressure sensitive pen. They only sued 2 companies in the whole time, or maybe 3. And one of those was Adobe for copying all this stuff. And basically, the defense, which was, you know, Apple funded, the lawyers, whatever, they didn't prove, it was all over patents. So they didn't prove that Adobe didn't copy the features. They just showed that the patent existed somewhere else before, so you can't have the patent. And we all know Adobe copied and destroyed companies, whatever. But, like they say, you know, the winner of a war gets to choose the history, right? So that's why
Adobe will always, everyone assumes Photoshop was the first. But this is truly the master, and Adobe and Photoshop is Grasshopper.
I need to go downstairs soon, so did you have a question? No?
I mean, it's an incredible story because
Yeah.
I didn't know about it, to be honest.
No, and there's nothing.
You know, we're fascinated by the MTV graphics and of course the album covers. But no one in my group, we had no idea about this.
Yeah, so look at the colors there. So see those colors? That's the menu. So look, Miami Vice is the 2 menu colors. Those pop videos, everything that you see, you know, and so ignorance is a terrible word because it sounds like you're stupid. It's not ignorant to not know about this. But all I would say to all your viewers is, think of anything that was made before 1992, because Photoshop 1 was terrible, right? But even 1990, when Photoshop was launched, think of anything that appeared that was digital on your screen, a weather map, TV graphics, Michael Jackson video, whatever, and ask yourself, well, look, there's a movie that shows, you know, swapping heads around with Sean Connery. You know, there's NBC in New York, so everyone knows Wayne's World, right? So Wayne's World, you know, the graphics were done on a Paintbox. So to make it, and it was funny, the designer said it was like 1991 Wayne's World. So they made it look like old Paintbox graphics, like that were distorted, because it was already old school. So yeah, all your viewers, next time you see anything made in the 80s or appeared on TV in the 80s,
Or in the 90s.
or most of the 90s, like up to the mid-90s, the chances are it's done on this. There's 3D graphics, obviously it didn't do, you know, it didn't do Terminator Liquid Metal, but the poster for Terminator 2 was done on the Paintbox.
I mean, I think it's always interesting to know the history of things. Because someday we all dumb as hell if we don't know about it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to know about these things, because otherwise we one day start from nothing again.
Yeah.
And it's important that these things are brought to mind of the people.
So if you say, okay, Jennifer Bartlett, when she went on this in 1986, she said, wow, this is so powerful and confusing that it's like being on a game, but secondly, she said, I can imagine a whole generation of schizophrenics who don't know where reality ends and digital begins. That was in 1986. You know, Richard Hamilton said, you know, the philosophical implications of this, it's like a giant leap in photography because you can just do anything, and how is that going to be used for good or bad? You know, all the supermodels that were retouched on this or whatever, all your body dysmorphia, all your fake news, the original digital fake news was all done on this. So good and bad, our world changed in the 80s where you thought everything was real and then you were surprised when something was digital. And because of this and all that came after, we now think everything is digital and we're surprised when it's real.
Yeah.
That's kind of like crazy, right? So yeah, well, I met the guy who founded CryptoPunks, and I shook his hand and I said, oh, I want to thank you, because I said, you're like the Rolling Stones. You popularized digital art, people made money, great. But I said, Keith Richards playing the blues, that's some guy in the Mississippi Delta. He stole his blues riff and you tweaked it around and made it more commercial. Well, this is the blues delta thing that the Photoshop is the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that, but thankfully enough people want to go back and go, well, where did Photoshop start? Where did Rolling Stones songs come from? Where did those tunes come from? And I don't mind, nobody knows, but I think it's cool if they're interested, you find out and have a think. So just ask yourself, hey, where did that image come from? How did they do it? And as you say, learning that makes your enjoyment of Photoshop and all the other images deeper, because you go, oh wow, there's like another 10-year story here that's really interesting.
Hey guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good.
It was super interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
There's a lot of stuff I didn't know at all. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for instance, so this is a good example. I was asked to do an album for this band.
Very standard song. Very standard.
So who did you guys go to in 88?